An unprecedented number of Muslims are forsaking Islam and choosing to follow Christ, especially in Iran.
You have a country with one of the highest drug addiction rates in the world. You have a country where corruption runs rampant. You have a country where more than half the people live below the poverty line.
The faith option many are choosing is Jesus, with at least 1 million Muslims reportedly leaving Islam for Christianity.
Picture a nation where ancient traditions are being quietly rewritten, not in grand revolutions, but in whispered prayers behind closed doors. In Iran, where the call to prayer once echoed through 75,000 mosques, silence tells a compelling story. As churches fill and mosque attendance dwindles, one question emerges. Could this unexpected spiritual shift mark the beginning of a profound transformation in the heart of the Islamic world? Setting the stage. In the heart of Tehran, where the call to prayer once echoed through crowded mosques, a profound silence now fills these sacred spaces. The transformation unfolding across Iran's religious landscape tells a story few could have predicted. Once bustling prayer halls stand eerily quiet, with local reports indicating a staggering reality. Nearly two-thirds of the country's 75,000 mosques have seen their congregations dwindle to a handful of faithful, marking an unprecedented shift in this theocratic nation's spiritual fabric. Beneath the surface of Iran's strictly controlled religious environment, a quiet revolution is taking place. Conservative estimates suggest that approximately 1 million former Muslims have embraced Christianity, a number that becomes more remarkable considering the severe consequences converts face. This shift isn't happening in grand cathedrals or public squares, but in humble living rooms, basement gatherings, and through encrypted digital platforms where believers share their newfound faith despite the risks of discovery. The story of Iran's religious transformation intertwines deeply with the nation's social and economic struggles. In a country where over half the population lives below the poverty line, where corruption runs deep, and where drug addiction rates rank among the world's highest, many Iranians are questioning the foundational premises of their society. Public acknowledgement of declining mosque attendance signals more than just empty buildings. It represents a crisis of faith in the established order. Within this landscape of change, the numbers tell a compelling story. The CBN and International Radio Ministry's joint study revealed not just statistics, but a pattern of spiritual seeking that crosses socioeconomic boundaries. Young professionals in Tehran, traditional families in Mashhad, and students in Isfahan are all part of this quiet exodus from traditional religious structures. Their stories reflect a search for meaning that transcends the conventional boundaries of faith and culture in modern Iran. These changes haven't gone unnoticed by authorities who view religious conversion as a direct challenge to the state's legitimacy. The infamous morality police tasked with enforcing Islamic laws have intensified their efforts to maintain religious conformity. Yet their actions, including recent incidents of violence against women for hijab violations, seem to accelerate rather than stem the tide of change. Each act of enforcement appears to push more Iranians to question the intersection of faith, authority, and personal freedom in their lives. Amidst this shifting religious landscape, individual stories emerge like threads in a tapestry of transformation, each one revealing the deeply personal nature of faith and the courage required to challenge generations of tradition in search of spiritual truth, the human element. In a modest apartment on the outskirts of Tehran, Sarah, name changed, gathers with 14 others, their voices barely above a whisper, as they study religious texts hidden beneath ordinary book covers. Her journey began 3 years ago when, disillusioned by personal tragedy and systemic corruption, she started questioning the religious framework that had defined her life. Finding Christianity wasn't just about changing beliefs, she confides. It was about discovering a different way of relating to God, one based on love rather than fear. Mohammed, a former mosque leader from Isfahan, describes his transformation as a gradual awakening. After witnessing systematic oppression and the struggle of his community with poverty, his faith in the system began to crack. The tipping point came when I could no longer reconcile the suffering I saw with the promises of our leaders, he shares, his voice carrying the weight of years spent wrestling with doubt. His story mirrors thousands of others who've made similar journeys. Within Iran's underground Christian community, family dynamics tell a particularly poignant story. Mina, a young professional, recalls the day she told her parents about her conversion. "I expected rejection," she says, "but instead my father surprised me by saying, 'If you found peace, who am I to stand in your way?'" Such responses, while not universal, reflect a growing understanding among Iranian families that the search for spiritual truth transcends traditional boundaries. The network of house churches operates like an intricate web of trust and caution. Each gathering represents a delicate balance between fellowship and security. Leaders coordinate through encrypted messages, changing locations frequently to avoid detection. One organizer explains, "We never keep records, never write down names. Everything is memorized, shared through word of mouth. Our strength lies in our simplicity and trust in each other." Personal testimonies from converts consistently highlight a shift in their understanding of divine relationship. Reza, a former religious scholar, describes his experience, "In my previous faith, I felt constantly judged, always trying to earn God's approval. Christianity offered something revolutionary: unconditional love and direct access to God without intermediaries. This personal connection was transformative for me and many others I know." These individual stories, while unique, share common threads of disillusionment with institutional religion and a yearning for authentic spiritual experience. What we're seeking isn't just a new religion, but a genuine relationship with the divine that makes sense of our daily struggles and offers hope for our future. Her words echo through countless similar testimonies across Iran's urban centers and rural communities. The rising sun over Tehran marks another day of quiet revolution, where each personal decision to embrace a new faith adds another chapter to Iran's evolving spiritual narrative. Societal factors. In the shadow of Iran's towering economic challenges, the fabric of society continues to shift. Recent data reveals that over 60% of the population struggles beneath the poverty line, with inflation eating away at savings and dreams alike. Young professionals, once the backbone of the middle class, find themselves moving back in with parents, their hopes for financial independence crumbling under the weight of international sanctions and domestic mismanagement. These economic pressures create fertile ground for questioning not just political systems, but the religious foundations they rest upon. Beneath the surface of daily survival, a profound political disillusionment permeates Iranian society. Government surveys, carefully controlled yet revealing, show that trust in religious institutions has plummeted to historic lows. When prayers don't fill empty stomachs, people start questioning everything they've been taught to believe. This crisis of confidence extends beyond religious authorities to challenge the very premise of theocratic governance. The intersection of social media and spiritual seeking creates unprecedented pathways for exploration. Despite government restrictions, virtual private networks connect seekers to global religious communities. Young Iranians, particularly those under 30 who comprise nearly 60% of the population, navigate this digital landscape with increasing sophistication. Through encrypted messaging apps and hidden forums, they discover and share alternative perspectives on faith, freedom, and identity. A generational divide emerges in attitudes toward religious authority. While older generations often maintain outward conformity to traditional practices, younger Iranians increasingly reject what they view as empty ritualism. University campuses, though heavily monitored, buzz with quiet conversations about spiritual authenticity. Our parents' generation accepted without questioning. We need our faith to make sense in a world that's increasingly connected and complex. The drug epidemic ravaging Iranian communities adds another layer to this social transformation. With one of the highest addiction rates globally, families grapple with both personal tragedy and systemic failure. Treatment centers, overwhelmed and underfunded, become unexpected spaces for spiritual questioning. Healthcare workers report that patients increasingly seek not just physical recovery, but deeper healing that traditional religious frameworks haven't provided. Women's roles undergo particular scrutiny in this period of change. The recent protests following tragic encounters with morality police highlight growing resistance to religious control over personal choice. Female professionals, artists, and activists lead conversations about redefining faith in terms of individual conscience rather than institutional mandate. Their voices, though often silenced in public spaces, resonate through private networks and underground gatherings. Technology emerges as both catalyst and sanctuary for religious exploration. virtual reality prayer rooms, encrypted Bible study groups, and anonymous spiritual counseling services create safe spaces for questioning and growth. These digital havens, while constantly adapting to avoid detection, demonstrate remarkable resilience. The internet, observes a tech-savvy ministry leader, has become our new wilderness, a place where people can wander and wonder freely, discovering truth on their own terms. As the digital age collides with ancient traditions, creating new pathways for spiritual exploration, the underground movement of religious transformation takes on an increasingly organized form, one that challenges the very foundations of Iran's religious establishment through carefully cultivated networks of believers. Religious movement analysis. Behind closed curtains in suburban Tehran, a remarkable pattern of spiritual seeking unfolds with clockwork precision. Every Thursday evening, small groups of 10, 15 people filter quietly into different apartments across the city, their arrivals carefully staggered to avoid attention. These underground gatherings, multiplying across Iran's urban landscape, represent more than just religious meetings. They embody a sophisticated network of spiritual resistance that has evolved over decades of persecution. Local organizers estimate that in Tehran alone, over 3,000 such house churches operate in an intricate dance of secrecy and solidarity. The digital underground pulses with encrypted messages in virtual congregations, forming an invisible cathedral of believers across Iran's digital landscape. Through secure messaging apps and virtual private networks, an estimated 100,000 Iranians participate in online religious studies weekly. Our virtual churches have become as real as physical ones, explains a digital ministry coordinator, speaking under condition of anonymity. When traditional gatherings become impossible, technology creates new sanctuaries where people can explore their faith without fear of surveillance or arrest. The movement's growth follows distinct patterns that challenge conventional religious expansion models. Unlike traditional evangelical efforts, this transformation spreads primarily through personal networks and family connections. Research conducted by underground church leaders suggests that for every known convert, there are potentially 5 others exploring Christianity in secret. These seeking shadows, as they're called within the movement, represent a vast undercurrent of spiritual questioning that remains largely invisible to outside observers. The organizational structure of this religious movement reveals remarkable sophistication. Cell groups operate independently yet maintain loose connections through a complex system of trusted intermediaries. Each cell typically consists of 3 layers: core members who coordinate activities, regular attendees who participate in gatherings, and newer seekers introduced through careful vetting processes. This 3-tier system provides both security and sustainability, allowing the movement to absorb losses from government crackdowns while maintaining operational continuity. Support systems within the movement demonstrate extraordinary resilience and adaptation. When authorities shut down one gathering place, 3 more emerge in different locations. Financial support flows through informal channels, with believers sharing resources to support those who lose jobs or face persecution. An underground leader describes this ecosystem. We've created a parallel economy of faith, where those who have means support those who sacrifice everything for their beliefs. It's not just about spiritual survival anymore. It's about creating sustainable communities of faith. The movement's teaching methodology has evolved to meet unique challenges. Traditional religious education models have been replaced by modular learning systems that can be quickly memorized and shared orally. Scripture portions are broken into manageable segments, with emphasis on passages that resonate with Iranian cultural contexts. This adaptive approach ensures that even if physical materials are confiscated, the essential messages survive through human memory and verbal transmission. The psychological impact of this underground religious movement manifests in surprising ways. Mental health professionals working with converts report increased resilience and positive coping mechanisms among participants, despite intense societal pressure. There's something powerful about choosing your faith consciously, especially when that choice comes with significant costs, notes a psychiatrist who works with religious minorities. The very act of making that choice seems to strengthen individual resolve and community bonds. International networks play a crucial role in sustaining this movement, though their involvement requires delicate balance. Organizations operating in neighboring countries provide resources and training while carefully avoiding direct intervention that could compromise local believers. These connections create a vital lifeline for isolated communities while maintaining the authenticity and independence of the Iranian movement. Estimated support from international sources reaches over 50,000 Iranian believers annually through various channels, from digital resources to emergency assistance for persecuted families. As the underground movement continues to reshape Iran's spiritual landscape, its ripples extend far beyond individual conversions, creating profound shifts in the cultural bedrock of a nation where religion and identity have been inseparable for centuries, challenging traditional power structures and forcing society to confront fundamental questions about faith, freedom, and the future. Cultural impact. The cultural metamorphosis sweeping across Iran penetrates deep into the fabric of daily life, transforming everything from family dinner conversations to workplace dynamics. In Tehran's bustling markets, where merchants once automatically greeted customers with religious salutations, a subtle shift occurs as younger generations opt for secular greetings. Social researchers document how these micro-changes reflect deeper transformations, with surveys indicating that over 65% of urban Iranians under 35 now prefer non-religious social customs. This shift represents more than mere rebellion. It signifies a fundamental reevaluation of how faith intersects with public life in modern Iran. Within Iranian households, traditional family hierarchies face unprecedented challenges as younger members increasingly question religious authority. The dinner table becomes a battlefield of ideas, where generations clash over interpretations of faith and freedom. Our family gatherings have become delicate diplomatic missions, shares Parisa, a 28-year-old software engineer whose conversion to Christianity initially created deep rifts in her extended family. But over time, something remarkable happened. The conversation shifted from confrontation to genuine curiosity. Even my deeply traditional grandmother now asks thoughtful questions about my beliefs, seeking to understand rather than condemn. The arts community reflects this cultural transformation with particular poignancy. Underground galleries in major cities showcase works that subtly challenge religious orthodoxy, while private poetry readings incorporate themes of spiritual seeking and religious freedom. These artistic expressions, though carefully coded to avoid censorship, reach audiences hungry for new ways to process their changing religious landscape. A prominent gallery owner, speaking anonymously, reveals that artwork exploring themes of religious transformation now comprises nearly 40% of private collections among younger collectors, indicating a significant shift in cultural taste and expression. Educational institutions become unexpected crucibles of change despite strict governmental oversight. University professors report a marked increase in students' willingness to engage in nuanced discussions about faith and identity. In one anonymous survey conducted across 3 major universities, 72% of students expressed desire for more open dialogue about religious diversity. This academic environment, though heavily monitored, provides crucial spaces for intellectual exploration of faith outside traditional religious frameworks. The impact extends beyond campus boundaries, as students carry these conversations into their homes and communities. Professional environments witness their own cultural evolution as workplace dynamics adapt to changing religious sensibilities. Companies navigate an increasingly complex landscape where traditional religious observances clash with evolving personal beliefs. Human resource managers in Tehran's private sector report growing requests for religious accommodation beyond traditional Islamic practices. This shift forces organizations to develop new policies that balance respect for diverse beliefs with compliance with religious laws. One international firm's Iranian branch quietly implemented guidelines protecting employees' religious privacy, marking a significant departure from traditional workplace cultural norms. The transformation penetrates even the most intimate aspects of cultural life, increasingly incorporate elements that bridge traditional practices with new spiritual expressions. Young couples pioneer hybrid ceremonies that honor family traditions while creating space for their evolved beliefs. Our wedding became a beautiful testament to possibility, shares Amir, who with his wife crafted a ceremony incorporating both their Muslim family's traditions and elements of their Christian faith. It showed our families that change doesn't mean rejection. It can mean growth, inclusion, and deeper understanding. These personal innovations ripple through society, gradually reshaping cultural expectations around life's most significant moments. As these cultural transformations reshape Iranian society from within, their influence extends far beyond national borders, sparking similar movements across the Middle East and challenging long-held assumptions about religious identity and social change in the Islamic world. Broader regional context. The ripples of Iran's religious transformation echo across the Middle East, creating unexpected resonances in neighboring societies. In Afghanistan, despite Taliban control, underground faith communities report similar patterns of questioning and seeking. International observers document a remarkable phenomenon. Across the region, an estimated 50,000 individuals monthly engage in serious exploration of alternative faiths through digital platforms. What's happening in Iran isn't isolated. It's part of a broader regional awakening that challenges our assumptions about religious identity in the Islamic world. From the bustling streets of Istanbul to the quiet neighborhoods of Muscat, patterns of religious transformation emerge with striking similarity to Iran's experience. Yemen, despite its ongoing humanitarian crisis, witnesses a faith movement that outpaces global averages by nearly double. Local activists report that even in Saudi Arabia, long considered Islam's unchangeable heartland, subtle shifts occur as younger generations quietly explore different spiritual paths through encrypted social media groups and private gatherings. Conservative estimates suggest that across the Gulf states, underground faith communities have grown by 300% in the past decade. The digital Silk Road of faith connects seekers across borders that once seemed impenetrable. Through sophisticated networks of virtual private networks and encrypted messaging apps, testimonies from Iranian converts inspire and encourage those facing similar struggles throughout the region. A coordinator for a regional ministry network reveals that their online platforms host over 100,000 unique visitors monthly from across the Middle East, with engagement metrics suggesting deep, sustained interaction rather than casual browsing. The questions being asked in Tehran resonate in Riyadh, Sana'a, and beyond, they explain. International support networks have evolved to meet this expanding regional movement. Organizations operating from safe havens in Turkey, Armenia, and Cyprus provide crucial resources while maintaining careful distance to protect local believers. These networks report an unprecedented scale of activity. Literature in local languages reaches millions through digital distribution, while online counseling services operate round the clock to support individuals navigating religious transformation. The sophistication of these support systems reflects years of experience and adaptation to regional challenges. The phenomenon catches the attention of regional governments, prompting varied responses. While some nations maintain strict opposition to religious conversion, others show signs of evolving toward greater tolerance. The Gulf states, in particular, face a delicate balance. They must navigate between maintaining traditional religious authority and acknowledging the changing spiritual landscape among their younger populations. This tension creates space for subtle but significant policy shifts, as evidenced by recent reforms in religious expression laws across several Gulf nations. Security concerns shape how this regional movement develops. Unlike Iran's relatively organized underground networks, believers in neighboring countries often operate in smaller, more isolated groups. Yet these communities demonstrate remarkable resilience, developing innovative ways to maintain faith under pressure. A regional security analyst observes that these groups have become masters of adaptation, using everything from ancient desert survival techniques to cutting-edge technology to preserve their communities. The result is a tapestry of faith communities that, while physically separated, maintain strong spiritual and emotional connections across national boundaries. Looking beyond immediate trends, experts from organizations like the Voice of the Martyrs and the Tide Ministry observe patterns suggesting this spiritual movement has entered a new phase of maturity. Despite intensified surveillance and persecution, underground networks demonstrate unprecedented resilience. The combination of sophisticated digital platforms, established support systems, and deepening community bonds creates what Todd Nettleton describes as a sustainable ecosystem of faith. This sustainability, coupled with growing disillusionment among younger Iranians, points toward continued growth rather than temporary upheaval. The transformation rippling through Iranian society carries implications far beyond religious statistics. According to field reports from organizations working in the region, These shifts in spiritual allegiance often catalyze broader social changes. A new generation of Iranians, facing unprecedented economic challenges and global connectivity, increasingly views faith as a personal journey rather than an inherited obligation. This fundamental shift in perspective challenges traditional power structures, while creating space for new forms of community and identity formation. The movement's future appears inextricably linked to technological advancement and generational change. As reported by the Tide Ministry, digital platforms continue evolving to meet the needs of seekers while evading detection. Youth leadership emerges from unexpected quarters, with converted students and young professionals developing innovative approaches to maintaining faith communities under pressure. While authorities work to contain this transformation, the decentralized nature of modern spiritual seeking, combined with growing economic and social pressures, suggests a continuing evolution in how Iranians understand and express their faith. As we witness this profound spiritual awakening across Iran and beyond, the undeniable message of hope, resilience, and renewal resonates through countless lives. Share these stories of transformation, for they remind us that even in the darkest corners, light finds a way to shine through, changing hearts and nations, one soul at a time.